For as long as I could remember, there was a point in my life where I really hated reading. What's this? I already told this story. Well, that's on my Instagram. I'm telling it again here. For those who don't have an Instagram or don't care to go on my Instagram, here's why I hate reading. I hated reading. I love reading now. In fact, I love it so much I don't read because of it. This sounds weird and kind of makes no sense, but because I am addicted to reading, I'll find myself reading a book for hours on end and then realize, oh wait, I got other stuff to do, but now it's nighttime, so I guess I go to bed now. That's how bad it is. I will read a book like I'm binge watching episodes. Books are fun. Books are good. And I absolutely love telling and typing and writing and reading stories. It's amazing. But past me would cuss out the future me, wondering how the heck I ever picked up a book and not want to off myself. Well, here's why. My dad's a stinking idiot. He believed that the only way we could be smart is by forcing learning in our heads and believing that's the only way to get smarter. His version of punishment was to force a book down our throats and assume that that's the only way we would actually learn anything. If we didn't have homework, book for hours. And that's why I absolutely hated reading. It's so dumb. There's definitely other methods to learning how to read, and believe it or not, I'm not the only one who dealt with this. I've already mentioned this in a different video if I haven't uploaded it already, but Jaden, she is just somehow a mind reader, and I guess we both live the same exact lives. Jaden Animations. I might provide the video down below. She explains how she was forced to read as some form of punishment and made it so she hates reading books. I think she still does, and I am so sad that she has to feel that way. But there are ways to get out of it. Reading is not a punishment. Learning is not a punishment. It used to be, as far as homework goes, but learning itself is not a punishment and should never be used as such. This makes it so students and or kids and or anybody who's learning doesn't want to. It should be used to help build the mind. It should be fun. It should be desperate for you to want to know more. But that wasn't like that for me in the past, and luckily for me, it changed. I don't remember what grade I was in, but I'm going to try to speed run this because there's actually a two-parter, and I'm not going to try to break it into two parts. I hated reading for as long as I can remember because I lived with my dad in my younger age. And if we didn't have homework, if we didn't have, I guess, anything that was involving learning, we would read. And if we did something stupid and we got grounded, we couldn't play with toys, we couldn't draw, we couldn't play games, we would read the entire day. Books we didn't care about. Things that made no sense. And there was a point in my life where I had to read this Incredibles book. Yeah, The Incredibles, the movie. It was a book. And I read it so often that I was speed running it. He had to tell me to slow down. That's how ridiculous it was. He got these books from the Goodwill or something. And I would read that one because it was the only one I was mildly interested in. But I hated reading. I hated reading. And this affected me so badly throughout school. I hated reading, I would struggle reading, comprehension was just out of the window. I'm sure I have some form of learning disability that hasn't been, diagnosed or noticed yet, and it's probably the reason why I'm not able to comprehend things now. But for somebody who was about 9 years old, it was definitely a big issue. I actually was put in special classes and given a reading aid teacher. I think I remember her name. Her name was Miss Robinson. And she was a black woman, kind of sassy. And she kind of didn't take crap from anybody. But, luckily for me, she knew what was up. Well, not about my father, but knew that reading was not for everyone and tried her best to encourage it. If it wasn't for her, I would still hate reading. When I was in about middle school, I want to say 7th grade, an author came into our school building and was talking about his book and the things that he had to introduce and learn for the book. But for me, I was like, this is pointless, this is stupid, why am I here, don't care, can we leave now? And finally it was over. It was a book called Ashfall, and he was explaining some of the things that the kid in the book had to experience, and for me I just didn't care. Everybody was talking about how good the book was, and everybody was grabbing the book left and right from the library. Miss Robinson asked me, hey, are you going to go read that book? I'm like, not really, don't care to. It's like, well, can you at least try it before the end of the year? Can you try it for me? I'm like, fine, because why not? So I went to go get the book. It was the last one they had available, and I checked it out, and I begrudgingly started reading the information on the front, and then read the first couple of chapters, and that's how I got hooked. I now discovered that my absolute favorite kind of genre of stories is sci-fi and post-apocalyptic stuff. I probably butchered that word, but I can't pronounce it. So that, I absolutely love what-if situations, especially when somebody has to survive. It's amazing. So I got addicted, and I couldn't stop reading that book. Unfortunately, it was toward the end of the year, and so I couldn't finish it. But I told Miss Roberts that I enjoyed that book. And I read most of the books that followed afterwards. Unfortunately, when I just got addicted to reading, I realized I couldn't just pick up the book, read a couple pages, and put it back down. So when I got the latest book they had, I didn't read a single page. I just had it and kept checking it out, but never finished it because I knew if I picked it up for even a moment, I would waste my entire day reading that book. I mean, it wouldn't be a waste, but I would have other stuff I wanted to do. So I never got to finish that book, unfortunately. Still haven't gotten around to finishing that book because I know what'll happen. But one interesting thing in that book that really shocked me was, I forget the character's name, I wish I could remember, I think it was like Alex or something like that. So in the book, I'm going to just call him Alex. Alex is trying to get somewhere, and he runs into a couple people. One of them, I think her name was Darla or something. He runs into Darla, and like they finally get a break. They get into this house and they rest. And while they're resting, Darla asks him how old he is. He's like, I don't know. What's today's date? She's like, I think it's like the 4th of October. And he's like, oh, well, I'm 16. My birthday was 2 days ago. Bruh, let me tell you. When I heard that, I freaking lost my stuff because not only was I 16, but my birthday was October 2nd. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can relate to this book. And that's basically how I absolutely loved that book. Loved the story, loved everything. Now, to explain my issue with not being able to read quickly. While love reading, hate reading out loud. While I can read myself in a fairly okay speed, if I'm pressured for any reason to read in front or around somebody who knows I'm reading, that's when the anxiety picks up and I can't read worth crap. When I was in high school, I was in social studies class and we were all reading, not all reading, but we were all listening to a teacher reading the book. And nothing makes me more anxious than when he stops reading to tell everybody else to read a section out loud. So that's what he does. He starts calling people to read. I don't raise my hand ever for these situations, but teachers like to target the people with the hands down because that's the best way to get a person to read, right? So he picks me, and I'm forced to read this paragraph, and every other word I'm either saying it wrong, stuttering the word, or can't pronounce it. And every time I come across that situation, a student goes, it's this word. Jeez, can you not read it all? And of course I get so upset, I just stop reading. I can't do it anymore. And it made it even worse when the teacher realized that he was being an a-hole for no reason and tells him to read. But he openly says, I don't care, and then reads it perfectly fine. Like, why do people like you exist? Why do people like you exist? It's not fair. I'm sitting here struggling and you're just sitting being all cocky for what? You're not gonna get laid? Being a jerk is not gonna get you any women. Get out of here. That's the reason why I don't read out loud. I hate reading out loud. And it's even worse when people hold their phone telling me to read this extremely long paragraph that's supposed to be funny or memey or whatever. Like, just get the phone out of my face. Don't tell me to read anything out loud. I can read, just not out loud. And I prefer to read to myself. Oh, this also reminds me of this other time. So, while I was struggling with reading, I was with reading teacher aid people. We would go through this little test, I guess, to check your skills in reading. Remember I told you I can't stand reading out loud? One of these situations I have to. So what I'm prompted to do, sit in front of a teacher, given a sheet of paper with like a story section on it, and I'm supposed to read the entire thing. And I guess I'm supposed to either comprehend it or read it fast or something, because I read in like 2 or 3 grades below my level, because I guess it matters what level grade you're reading, because if you're reading to yourself, you gotta read at like 2 or 3 levels above you, right? But anyways, I'm struggling to read this, and with every word I say incorrectly, I see the teacher jot something down. And then when it's all done, she'll say thank you, you can return to whatever you were doing. Not telling me what I did wrong, not guiding me, not trying to understand what it is I'm doing, just tells me to go away and call it a day. I know I said stuff wrong, but did I get any help? No! What is up with this? Word I most remember incorrectly saying is the word climbed. I don't know if you guys ever read the word climbed, but there's a stupid letter B in it. Why? So, when I go to pronounce the word, I say clamp bed. Clamp bed. I don't know how to say it. And so, I would come across that word, and for some strange reason, a lot of characters are climbing. But, I would come across that word, and yeah, say it wrong. And then they'd jot it down, and then just listen to me read. Another one would be business. Looks like it says bussiness. But nope. She just jots it down. By the way, tip for your kids who are struggling with reading, don't tell them to sound it out. The words do not sound like the way they are spelled. Get that through your head. So, yeah, I hated reading. There's reasons why I still hate reading, but I love reading as long as I'm not reading out loud.